Good morning, everyone. This is Greg Aden with Aden Leadership, and it's another beautiful day in Denver. Although it was hailing and raining all night, it's a beautiful blue skies here. And no, don't move here. I'm just telling you, it's great weather. My guest today is Matt Wexler. Matt, we chatted off air, and one of the reasons I wanted you as a guest is your relationship with Callie Wrestler. I guess you guys work together at Accenture. I'll let you tell me all about that. But she was just a kind, humble human being that you could just tell she does really, really good things for great people. And I believe we're going to find out about you, which is also a kind and humble human being. And just your history, your experience just speaks volume about how you want to help other humans. So introduce yourself as you wish, and then, like we said off camera, tell us what your why and what are you all about.
Thank you so much, Greg, for having me today. I'm really honored to be invited here and be with you and your listeners. Matt Wexler. I'm based just outside of the Chicago area, and I couldn't help but laugh at your comment about don't move here to Denver. Right? My sister lives there, and yes, apparently you don't want anybody else there because it's filling up quite a bit.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Yeah.
but that's a separate conversation, I suppose. Um, Previously, up until a couple months ago, I was a senior director of global people leadership development over at Salesforce. Role was eliminated along with many others, unfortunately, in the recent mass layoffs. But in the moment, looking for that next place where I can really have a deep personal impact on as many people as possible in how they spend their time at work, and also how that carries over and back and forth with how they lead their lives every day.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I really want to talk about is how can we and what it is that you do. One of the first things in your explanation of who Matt Wexler is, you focus on a new level of consciousness. I mean, I understand what it is, but tell us why it's important to you.
I think when I think about consciousness, or perhaps helping people get to a new level of consciousness, it's that I believe that in today's world, where there is so much happening on the outside that is ultimately impossible to keep up with.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, it's easy to perceive the outside world, or the majority of it, as being things that are not things that we want to think about or hear about, or really feel ultimately
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis. It requires quite a bit of self-awareness to take stock on what's happening inside of us, not just in our heads, but in our hearts, or in our souls, and even in our physical bodies, and to understand how that outside world is having that impact on that inside world that we have going on in us all the time, that never stops. Right? Those
Yeah.
thoughts and those feelings never stop, but it's a matter of what are those feelings, what are those thoughts, how do they influence how we actually behave and show up every day, and how can we actually learn from what we're experiencing so that we can almost regulate ourselves in a little bit more, so that we can have that type of impact and live that life that we want.
Well, clearly, the work that you've done with Salesforce in the 19 plus years with Accenture, you were all about helping leaders become better leaders. I don't want to oversimplify it, but and I hear, Matt, that you did it and you want to continue doing it with someone else from the inside out. Would you say that's accurate?
To be honest, as I'm on this journey for myself, that is certainly one option for me.
Okay,
And I think, and I'm happy to share just where I'm at as I'm exploring this, what might be next moment in my life
that's
and in my
beautiful.
career. There is something about being inside an organization that allows for me to feel very much immersed in the culture,
Yeah,
and to be able to see on a day-to-day basis how what people experience on the job impacts them both personally and professionally.
yeah,
At the same time, for me, as I'm exploring what I'd like to do next, I've had the privilege of, I would say, experiencing even firsthand as a recipient, but also as a facilitator and as maybe an orchestrator, right, of some amazing opportunities that really helped people focus on developing as humans, not just as business people or on whatever job they were in. And I've had the opportunity and the privilege to really do that at scale,
Yeah.
in a way where I've been able to have a tiny little effect, not just through what I do, but through the teams that I work with, to have an amazing multiplier effect, as I call it, on tens of thousands of people. And as I think about where I might want to be next, this idea of integration for me
Hmm.
is, I think, something that I'm very keen to explore, in the sense of how can we better integrate this human focused approach that often shows up in the container of leadership development, but to really spread that throughout the broader employee experience and talent life cycle. And so, if that opportunity presents itself where it is not an internal role, but more of a consulting or advisory role, I'd be open to that as well.
Well, I'll tell you, brother, that's what I do. I am a executive coach and leadership development consultant. I get to participate in and be in ingratiated actually inside organizations.
Mm,
And you say multiplier, I say ripple effect.
mm,
And I know, Matt, when we help one person grow, that person doesn't have to be the most popular person on the planet, but we all know there are tens and hundreds, and as you say, thousands of people that will become better by the way he or she decides to work on themselves as a human being. And I just want to expound on what you say. In my humble opinion, we are all human beings first, then we're men and women. And again, I don't care what you call yourself. We're either, men, women, or they, whatever you want to say. And then we have a title. And that's a distant third. It's a distant third, because if we're not kind and conscientious and self-aware, as you're saying, you want more people to be, this world is not going to be a very pretty place to live. And I don't know, do you and your wife have little ones?
we do. Yes. My son is 12 and my daughter is 9.
Beautiful. Well, as you know, they're going to be the future leaders of this country or whatever country they end up. And you and I won't be around. And, God bless them, because the outside forces right now are dominating the little hearts and minds of our children. And as you mentioned off air, are you aware that I lost Sam on May 5th? And I believe the mental health and the mental illness issue is promoted by social media and trying to be someone you're not and not understanding what all these goofballs are saying. And that's a whole nother topic. But to your point, helping people understand who they are and why they are and how they fit into a team and how the teams can get better and the companies can get more powerful. I'm just going to say it as a one man speaking to another. What was Salesforce thinking when they let someone like you go? It just, and you don't have to comment. It's my judgment, and I can judge anybody I want. And my comment is what you did for them, and exactly what you did for Accenture. You're going to get snapped up pretty quickly. And if not, grow a beautiful leadership development consulting firm and help hundreds of companies around the world. And I just met you, and I know that's possible.
Thank you.
So I love this question, and I ask it every so often. But if you're speaking to a group of high school graduates, and they brought you in specifically to talk about leadership, what would you tell these hearts and minds of these 17, 18-year-old children? What would you say?
I love the question and needed to pause there to gather my thoughts as I think about how to best answer that. And I try to think back maybe to myself as a 17 or 18-year-old and how much I thought I knew about myself in the world and how much actually I didn't. And I would say that at that point in your life, there are so many different directions and avenues to go. Yet at the same time, there are some things that have already surfaced inside of you that speak to what matters to you, what your values are, what brings you energy, brings you joy,
Mm,
and what you experience as it relates to relationships. And so I would say that it's important to actually take some time to reflect on what those things are and to allow those to not make all the decisions for you, but to help guide you as you look to take whatever that next step might be for you. And so I've spent a good amount of time at Accenture partnering with Gallup on
Yeah,
strengths based development.
I saw
And
that.
there's, well, there are a lot of amazing assessments and tools out there, and there's not one that fits bill for every possible situation. Of course, at the same time, though, I do believe really in the power of taking a strengths based mindset, and this is not just with what you can or can't do. Right? If you talk with our friends at Gallup, they talk about the strengths. The way they look at it is about how you approach doing things and finding that way, those ways in which you approach your everyday life as
Yeah,
being an opportunity to really have the biggest impact, an opportunity to have the most fulfillment, and as a way to have the most success in your life. And so for those 17 to 18-year olds, learning about yourself, learning what really gives you that energy and allows you to have those biggest amazing moments where you're accomplishing what you want to accomplish, leaning into that as much as possible versus trying or pretending to be someone else or trying
mhm,
to do something in the way that someone else does it.
yeah,
Those latter ones won't get you where you need.
beautiful. I tell you, I couldn't write fast enough because this is it, you would probably say the same thing to someone who's 27 or 28 or 37 and 38. You just beautiful the way you say it, and find out what you like. Find out what and you said it, what brings you joy and what not to do. Your parents should be already heavily involved in what not to do and what to stay away from and what kind of friends aren't going to serve you down the road. And that's a whole nother another podcast. But in terms of where to go, what lights you up? And what are your strengths? What are you good for or good at and maybe what you're known for? And reflect on what's going to help you and what's going to guide you down the road. I believe sometimes the high school graduates are recruited or they really want to go to a particular school based on location, maybe based on the degree they're serving. But I'm always impressed when I talk to young kids because I love coming into high schools and talking about leadership. It's something they don't really talk about much.
Mm,
And especially the way we talk about leadership. They look at a leader as perhaps a general or a colonel or a CEO. And there's leaders everywhere. And I try and tell the students at colleges and universities and high schools, you are a leader. You're a leader of yourself. People will follow you or they won't follow you. Who do you want to follow you and how do you want to behave? And again, even at 17 and 18, there's a ripple effect. So how will they approach life? Where will they get and receive the most success? And so it's people like us that can help them define success based on their terms and what they want. So
yeah.
just beautiful stuff, and I appreciate your pause. I do because
Mm,
I know the question meant something to you, and you wanted to be clean and clear with it, and I appreciate that very much.
thank you. And I, your point on, you might say the same thing to someone in their 20s. Uh, as I was hearing you say that, it's like I would actually say some of that, or if not all of it, to really anyone at any age. And I think it surfaced for me though with that younger generation that you're talking about, because it's something that I wish I had paid more attention to in myself
Yeah,
at that time.
me
It was
too.
something that, and I'm very privileged and fortunate to have grown up with two amazing parents and a very safe and loving household. And at the same time, though, I never didn't give enough attention to some of those inner voices that I had that were calling me in a certain direction, but I just didn't know what to do with it. And so
Yeah,
I spent a good portion of my early career doing work that I learned a lot from, but was not giving me the fulfillment in terms of the impact that I want to have on this world and the legacy that I want to leave behind.
yeah,
And so I wish I had learned about that that approach and that mindset a little bit earlier in life.
Sure. Well, I don't know that, and I'm much older than you are, and things were much different. And my parents were divorced when I was 9. Dad remarried right away. My mom remarried the very next year. In fact, I just got back from spending 4 days with my mom and stepfather in their 50th wedding anniversary slash family reunion. It was fantastic. But I'll tell you, as a little guy, no one was asking me, how can I be a better parent today? What do you want for dinner? Do you want to sign up for this sport? But no one was really asking me how they could be a better parent or a better leader in my life, because that's just not the conversations we had then. But
Mm,
if you follow me at all on LinkedIn, I'm all about the parents having real conversation with their kids. Yes, 9, 12, 13, 16. How may I be a better dad today? And that one question just might spark information that you wouldn't otherwise receive, because they're not going to wake up and say, Dad, do you want to know what I'm thinking? Do you want to know what lights me up? No, leaders, we need to ask our followers and just have fun with it. It's not a chore to be a parent. As you know, I hope, Matt, you'd agree. It's not a chore to be a leader either. It's a freaking privilege.
absolutely.
Own it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many parallels between parenting, I think, and leadership. And that's not meant as it's a, an insult or a dig on anyone who might be following a leader. Most of us are following a leader of some sort.
Yeah.
But the thing that comes up for me, as you mentioned, that is, as a leader and as a parent, how can we best be present when
Mm.
we are with our people or our children? Being fully present and not on our phones and not thinking some other thoughts or planning something else as we're sitting there and being with that other person, and asking those open-ended questions, as you said, to invite that perspective and to help the others feel safe, whether it's the people on your team, the people in your organization, or your children, to share and speak what is truly on their hearts and on their minds. Those parallels are very present for me. And as I think back fondly on my last role and my immediate, Salesforce called them the direct reports, but the leaders that were on my immediate team, I'm really proud of the environment we created together, where we would meet weekly. Well, we met for many reasons, but we would meet weekly just as a core leadership team
Yeah.
to talk about how we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the questions that we would ask each other, and myself was part of that as that small team leader, though, was, how are you doing right now?
Yeah.
How is your team doing? Not your deliverables, not your timelines, not your customers, right? How are you doing? And what do you need from us as a leadership team in order to continue and be successful this week? And those moments, we never missed a chance to have those conversations as a team. And there were times where we talked about what was really happening with people outside of the walls of the office. It was about, sometimes it was amazing things, sometimes it was celebrations, sometimes it was horrible things like divorce and separation. It was loss of loved ones,
Yeah.
mass shootings.
Yeah.
And there were tears, there was laughter, there was anger, and there was space for everyone to share whatever they needed to share without judgment. And that allowed us, those relationships allowed us then, when things got hard at work, we knew we had each other's back.
Yeah.
We knew we were there for each other, and we knew that we could actually succeed together. So I'm very proud of that experience. And I think that same mindset, I try to bring that my parenting as
Well, one surefire way to know, to answer your last question, and just ask your 9-year-old, ask your 12-year-old, how am I doing? Dad, you're great. You buy me ice cream. You let me stay up late. You let me watch these movies. No, no, no. How am I really showing up for you? And it sounds odd, but it's such a beautiful, fun question. It's the same
well.
question, just in different words. But I want to go back to something you said, then we'll wrap up. But you said feel safe. Imagine as a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 27-year-old, one of the things that we don't talk enough about, Matt, is I want to feel safe at work. I want to feel safe in my home. I want to feel safe with what you're talking about. And when we're yelling and pointing and using obscenities as a parent or as a leader, and I'm not saying we're cussing at work, but we are, and we're giving you the business because you don't listen and you're yelling at me and you think I'm going to change my behavior for you? And I don't care if you're a millennial, a Gen X, a Gen Z, or a baby boomer, whatever, that's not making people feel safe. It's making you feel more powerful. But last I looked, power was not leadership.
Hmm.
So again, not to keep this focused on who's following us, but that's why you're a leader, because people are following you. And if you look back and you wonder, does Matt feel safe following me? The only way that I'm going to find out is that if I ask him, how you doing? Do you feel safe? And I love your weekly stuff. And we don't make enough time for those real connections, Matt, and I don't know why. I do know why, but I don't want to accentuate it. It's all about freaking results and productivity and the bottom line. And I get that. But the only way to, and you're talking to someone who was at the top of his game for
Hmm.
6 of the 10 years. I was the guy in the entire industry. But the only way I got there, ready? Communication, relationships.
Hmm.
Communication, relationships. Nothing else happens without that. And argue with me all day and I'll just shut you up because it's just that easy. But we don't want to know what we're not capable of asking. And that's what you do. You and other people in this world help people become more self-aware. Yes, they're going to be more confident, but they're going to be more connected and more grounded to other human beings so we can all work together and be safe. What else is there? Ah, Greg, you're soft. No, no, I'm not.
Hmm.
In fact, if you want to meet a competitive person, drive to Denver, Colorado, and I'll find one for you. You're looking at them. But I've learned more about humility and empathy in these last 2 years than you can ever imagine. And that's a great mark of a leader. I'm not saying I'm arrived. Hell, I'm 60 and I'm still growing. I'm growing in here, though, not
Hmm.
up here. And get off your phones, ladies and gentlemen, and have real conversations with the people you say you love and see how your week will change. I guarantee you reprioritize how you spend your time.
Absolutely.
Matt
Yep.
Wexler, I can only imagine the people that you have been in touch with, you've worked with at Salesforce and Accenture. But I want you to make me a promise. And when you do land what brings you joy, please call me and let me know where you are and what you're doing. Will you do that?
I absolutely will.
Okay. Is there
And
anything you'd like to say as we wrap up today?
maybe just to add one additional thought to the last set of comments you were sharing. And what frustrates me, I think, today is what I'm reading in so many companies about this pendulum swing and shift of moving away from caring about well-being and caring about caring about our people to, like you said, results and performance. And the research that I've read and I believe in and subscribe to is that you actually need both of those to happen in the workplace. And there doesn't need to be a removal of caring about our people. And actually, it is more caring to hold people accountable for their performance and their work and to have those true conversations, those meaningful conversations, as you said, Greg,
Yeah.
than it is to shy away from them. And so I would encourage anyone listening that there is space for both. There needs to be space for both
Yeah.
if
Thank you.
we're going to continue to evolve and to grow, as you said.
Well, I haven't met anybody that I consider interesting or worth my time that isn't focused on elevating themselves, evolution, and growth. Why else are we here? I mean, I know a lot of people who have arrived and they're finished working, But as a human being, we're never finished growing. And when we stop growing, you know what happens? You fall off the tree and you become not only irrelevant, but you're just done. Why do you want to be done? Anyway,
Hmm.
um, again, I just want to bring attention to Matt Wexler. He's in a place of what's next, and what a beautiful place to be. I mean, honestly, the world is your oyster. Find Matt Wexler on LinkedIn and find out what he's all about. And if you're interested in growing your organization from the inside out, I have a feeling you might want to have this guy on your team. So Matt, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you making time for us this morning, and I wish you and your family well. And keep us in the loop as to how that 9 and 12-year-old are growing and what adjustments you're making, because I believe they're going to grow up and to be people that you're going to be really proud of.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Appreciate you being on the show today. Again, this is Greg Aden coming to you live from, well, I guess it wouldn't be live because it's a recording, but it just sounds good to say it. I feel alive. How's that? From Denver, Colorado, Matt Wexler from Chicago. Go out and be kind to someone. And I'm going to leave you with this one, which is a little different. What can you do today to help someone in your circle feel safe? And if you need to figure that out, call me. If you don't, then just what are you going to do? Because if you can make someone feel safe just a little bit more each and every day, leaders, if you're listening, that's you and your team, ask the question. You might just get the answer. And if you ask real questions, you'll get real answers and you'll have real human being experiences. So go out and serve someone today. Again, Greg Aden with Matt Wexler. Go out and have a great day, and God bless.